talking to the students, talking to the audience, rather than with them. So our goal here is just to have a really candid conversation and offer some insights from a diverse panel of individuals with diverse experiences. All right, you ready to get going?
Yeah.
That was pretty weak. You guys are you ready to get going? That was better, but I think I can do even better. One more time. Are you ready? Yeah! All right, that's the kind of energy we need throughout the discussion. And you should do even better when I introduce our panel. We're going to start by introducing Kim Pendergast. She is the CEO of Madison Superchargers. She is the scholarship chair, and most importantly, she is a serial entrepreneur, Kim Pendergast. All right. Up next, I refer to this person as a Renaissance man, Max Grundy, artist and president at Fear is Beautiful. Max does fabrication, he does everything, he's got a cool dog, I don't know what this guy does. Did you used to be a high school teacher? College teacher in Utah, right? All right, Max, come on. There it is, all right. Up next, come on, we have to be better than that.
Yeah.
Up next, you may know this person from social media, YouTube, Instagram, her Light Bright Studios, and as a competitor on Netflix as Hyperdrive. Please welcome to the stage, Brittany Williams.
I'm happy next. I'm happy next.
Brittany is actually homeless. We'll talk about that more later. That's good. Let's do that. All right. Up next, we have a table back there in Chattanooga, Tennessee, right? Where's that table at? Raise your hand. All right. That's pretty good. So this person is from Chattanooga, Tennessee, Rockdown LLC. I know this person, Mr. Redemption. Michael Grant, come on up.
Yeah.
All right, have a seat there. We're going to do something, and we'll get started in just a minute here. All right, like I said, we want to have a candid conversation, and the only way we're going to do that is if we're held accountable. So what I'm going to ask two brave souls in the audience, two students, they're going to have to come up here. And if we start talking, I guess, adult talk or jargon, their job is to hit this buzzer, and it'll sound a little bit like this. All right? So I need two people, two students to come up on stage. Come on up. All right, let's go. All right. Now we may incorporate you into the conversation. All right. So what's your name? And your name is? All right, so the important thing to know here is go off to the side here, and I'll bring you some chairs. Your mic's going to be live the whole time, so if you are prone to profanity, just know that the whole audience will hear it. All right, so hold the buzzer. If you have to push it, just push it from this. I will get you some chairs. Okay? All right. I'm doing everything. I'm getting chairs now. This is good.
No.
Do you know the rules on what you're doing with the microphone? Have a seat. Have a seat. All right, so you know the rules again, right? You want to take a picture? All right, that's good. Yeah. Make sure you take out the glare in my forehead. Okay.
I think it makes you look awesome.
You're my favorite. You're gonna make it big time. Flattery will get you everywhere. That's the first important note today, is just flatter people and they will like you. Okay. So one of the things that I asked the panel to do in preparation, and then hopefully you saw the emails, we talked a little bit about it yesterday. It's kind of first impressions, how you show up and introduce yourself. So during the week here, just because of the sheer volume of people, you're going to have to make a lot of introductions. And that first moment is when you make an impression. And a typical introduction is, hi, my name is Zane Clark, Senior Director of Education. That's cool, but it doesn't necessarily tell you what you're aspiring to do or what you hope to accomplish. And I've learned throughout my life that if you put yourself out there and say what it is that you want to accomplish, you'll attract people to that. They will gravitate towards you, and you'll find people that can help you accomplish those things. So I've asked the panel to do a little bit of an elevator pitch, and let's see what I asked. So to introduce yourself and one thing that you want to accomplish. All right, so Michael, you seem eager to go. We'll start with you.
Let's go.
All right.
I'm Michael Brandt. I own and operate Garage Bound LLC in Chattanooga, Tennessee. One of the things that I want to continue to accomplish throughout my career and the legacy that I'm building is being able to spread what we do as far as welding and fabricating through an education standpoint, as well as a hands-on standpoint, getting the next generation involved in the things that we do and build and can create with your hands.
All right, excellent. Brittany.
My turn? All
Yeah.
right. My name is Brittany Williams. I manage the Light Bright YouTube channel. I also am a drifter, as in I race cars, and I was a competitor on the Netflix's Hyperdrive. And my goal overall in my life is honestly just to inspire others at every opportunity to chase their dreams and follow their passions.
Nice. That is a good dream to have.
Thank you.
I'm inspired right now, so this is good. Mr. Grundy, I'm looking at you. I'm making eye contact. I can feel it. I'm peering into your soul, Mr. Grundy.
I'm ready.
So let's hear a little bit about you and one thing that you hope to accomplish.
Thanks, Zane. My name is Max Grundy. I'm an artist and car builder. I guess the main thing that I want to accomplish in my life here with you fine folks at SEMA is I want to continue to make art that impacts the viewer and takes the viewer on a ride, takes them a place. That's always been my goal, to make the viewer feel something when they look at automotive art. We also build cars. We want to keep continuing to do that, to do inspiring original builds that are not your average thing you would see. You can take a look at our latest COE build in the Coker Tire booth. It's an old Dr. Pepper truck. And I continue to hope to just do art and car builds that inspire people.
Excellent. Thank you, Max. Now, I'm looking down the line here, and I've had the great fortune of working closely with Kim over the last couple of years. As I mentioned, she is the chairperson of the SEMA Scholarship Committee. How many scholarship winners do we have in the room?
Right here.
Well, we got one right here because it's in my ear. Excellent. Congratulations. Are you scholarship winner too? Hey, we picked, see, they were eager to get up here. So, Kim, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and one thing that you hope to accomplish?
Well, you kind of stole my thunder, but I am a serial entrepreneur who fell in love with this industry and never left, although I've been in many other industries. I am currently the CEO and owner of Magnuson Superchargers. And if you wanted to know what I spend most of my time thinking about and what I'm driven by, is how to make this a robust company in an autonomous world with electric vehicles, and to have that very robust and safe future for our employees.
Well, that sounds like a very simple thing to do. We might be able to, we can just kind of have a brainstorming seminar here and figure that out for you, right? Okay, so, are we good? Any BS that you want to call on us yet?
Thank you so much. It was a lot of fun.
We have a hyperdrive fan. That's good. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go through a couple of themes here. And as we talk today, feel free to write down some questions, because towards the end of the program, we're going to open it up to audience Q&A. And that's really going to be the most valuable part of it, is this chance to talk to some leaders up here and have your questions answered. The first topic, though, is be yourself versus be what's expected. And it's a broad topic, but I look at it this way. This year, there's going to be 3.7 million students that are expected to graduate high school. 3.7 million students expected to graduate high school. 4.5 million from college. And 5.3 million between the ages of 18 to 24 are going to enter the workforce. So if you're out there and you're knowing that's the odds and the numbers, we're going to talk a little bit how you kind of separate yourself and make yourself stand out. So one of the things that is interesting to me is this be yourself versus be what's expected. So for me, this topic is kind of like this. If you're trying to be what other people think you ought to be in an interview or an interaction, you're not being authentic. So the only thing that's going to make you unique and separate you from the sea of people to your left and right is that thing that makes you unique. Own who you are. And we have a pretty diverse panel up here. And let's start with Kim on this topic. Whether you're interviewing somebody for a position or your own experience in life, what's your sense on that importance of just being unique?
Well, I think if you're in a job and you feel like you can't be yourself and you're asking yourself that question, then you're probably in the wrong job. So I don't think you have a choice but to be authentic and be yourself. It can't be an excuse to not learn and change and develop. But I remember a wonderful professor at Indiana who taught entrepreneurship. And he basically said, find people you like working with that share your moral compass, find an industry you like, and stick with it, and you'll be successful.
Excellent advice. That's okay. We'll switch up the batting order in a little bit here, and we'll go to Brittany on the same kind of topic, the importance of being unique. And I think especially with what you do in terms of building that social following, they're only going to respond if you are genuine to who you are, right?
Absolutely. I get the question a lot in terms of YouTube and stuff. People, especially a lot of kids nowadays, they really want to get into the social media thing where you get paid for posting yourself doing whatever you normally do. And the one piece of advice I always give everyone who asks me that question is whatever you're doing, you have to be passionate about it. If you are trying to force yourself, if you're trying to be something you're not, people will know. It shows. It absolutely does. And at that point, too, if you're trying to put on this face, it's no longer what you want to do. It becomes this job that you're forcing yourself into, and you're trying to fit this mold that you don't belong in. If you're doing something you genuinely enjoy and being yourself, it's not a job.
So it occurs to me as we have this conversation, we say, hey, let's start out, be authentic, be who we are, let that shine through. But just an example on your social media channels, and I think as people are in the workforce, corporate America has a way of kind of sucking out your soul, if we're being candid. And you, at some point, kind of lose your identity, or you run that risk.
Yep.
So, Max, there's that balance between being unique and not losing that.
I think Brittany's point about passion is more to the point of the answer of the question, because I feel like you sort of live in the zone of not being yourself. I'll be honest with you, I feel like if you're in this industry, you're constantly learning and you're constantly walking out into scary shit all the time. Can I say shit here?
Well, you did.
Twice? Okay, no more. Cut me off.
Yeah, I mean, I prefer poop, but if you want to use the S word, that's fine.
Okay. So, I mean, I think if you work in this industry, you kind of exist in the realm of fear. Is that being yourself? Would you rather be at home on the couch, relaxing, taking no risks? Because that might be more who you are. I think you have to be comfortable in this fearful zone. And you have to be immune to it and constantly take risks. I feel like I'm not myself all the time because myself is always growing and changing in this industry. Trying new things, trying new risks, stuff I don't know is going to work out, but I have the faith to try it.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. It's excellent because I think I put this emphasis on being who you are, but being who you are is constantly evolving. If you don't put yourself out there and take risk, you're not going to grow. I'm not a young person anymore, and I'm still trying to figure out who the authentic Zane is. But I only learned that by pushing myself and understanding what really drives me, where I am strong at, and owning and being okay with where I'm weak at. Michael?
Yeah, passion is a huge field for me, and I feel like I'm able to stand out in my industry because I stay at it 7 days a week, and if something's not working right, we have a lot of failures every day. It could be the failure, there's 20 different ways to do one kind of project. When you start the first way, it's not working out, that's a failure, you go on to the next way. It's just a problem to overcome and go around and circumnavigate to me. So failure is important for growth, and I think that passion, if you're passionate about what you want to do, then that will show through others, and then those people will want to be around you because you're like-minded. It's like what you said is about being like-minded around like-minded people.
Nice. So I have two thoughts, but I want to turn to our special guest real quick. And just tell me one thing that you feel like makes you different or unique. One thing. Talking to the microphone.
Optimism.
Optimism, that's a good thing to have. Excellent.
Good.
What makes me different is it's not what you see that you get.
All right.
You have to actually open that book and be a part of who I am and interact with me to see what you are actually going to get the adjustment with the last cover that opens with me.
That's a great answer. All right. Thank you. All right. Turn back this way now. So I think everybody up here in some respect mentioned passion. So we're going a little bit off script here. But we hear a lot, hey, follow your passion, you'll never work a day in your life, this and that. Do you really prescribe to that? I mean, hey, you gotta find your passion and really pursue that. Or is a passion a learned thing? Is it a struggle to get there? Because I think there is this mindset out there that, hey, I'm just gonna wait till this perfect opportunity aligns with my passion, then poof, I'll be happy. Yeah, Max?
Can I answer that?
No, we're gonna skip you.
Because I'm not sure how your rhythm's going here.
Yeah, I don't have any real rhymes.
I want to mix it up a little bit.
But no, please.
Because if there's anybody out there asleep, their eyes are drooping, time to pay attention. Let's ask yourself a serious question.
Yeah.
We do a serious question?
Yeah.
How many people out there, by a show of hands, love cars? Don't be shy. How many people out there want to go into a business that involves cars somehow? A little bit less. You guys suck.
So Max has two S words now.
Suck and beep.
Yeah.
I use my limit. How many people out there want to start their own business, work for themselves, have employees? Okay, a few less hands. Now here's the kicker. How many of you out there are willing to die to do that?
Sacrifice.
That's about 10% of you of that number that stuck their hands up will actually do a job, start a business in this industry. The rest of you will end up working for someone else. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's no reason to sit up here and tell you that it's easy and that anybody can do it, because people that think anybody can do it suck at it. Got two and two?
I really got something to add to that.
So, be passionate about it. Be willing to push yourself to the limits of it. Because if you're just, what is it, a dilettante? If you're a dilettante about it, if you have a mediocre interest in it,
Well, there's a difference between finding your passion and being passionate about what you do.
Yes.
there's a difference in what?
Between finding your passion and being passionate about what you do.
I think there is.
Yeah.
But the key is passion.
Yeah.
I don't think there's necessarily wrong with working for anybody else. That's great. But be passionate about whatever it is. If you gotta flip burgers before you get to that dream job, there's no shame in that. Be the best darn
Burger
burger flipper there is.
Burger flipper.
Be the fastest. Get the cheese square on the burger, not flopped off. Make it look like the Big Mac picture.
Well, you've heard cooking tips now from Max Grundy.
If there's one thing I know, it's burger.
Yes. So, we talk to a lot of companies when we're trying to help students get placed in careers, and I hear it time and time again that you can't teach either. All the other skills you can teach and you can try to mentor somebody, but if they don't come in with that passion, that willing to learn and embrace new challenges, you're probably going to get looked over. You wanted to add something, Michael?
Yeah, being a business owner is not easy. It's not, you're the business owner, you have all this stuff, you can do whatever you want. It comes with a ton of sacrifice. I can't tell you how many 7-day in a row weeks that I worked to be able to leave for 2 weeks for SEMA and FabTech, It comes with sacrifices with my wife. I don't spend as much time with her, but
Hi,
Connie. But it's something I love to do. I'm at the shop at 9 o'clock at night. My employees have already gone because they have lives, right? But I'm thinking about that next thing that I can do to help grow my business long term. It's not always just a short-term gratification. Being young, you have time to find out what your passion is. being in this amazing automotive industry, there are so many different things within this industry that you could probably find several things to be passionate about over a period of time with experience.
So Brittany, we talked a little bit about it when we had a chance to talk on the phone, and I think you look at your YouTube channel or your Instagram, and people think, oh, that's great, she just kind of walks around with the camera, that's awesome, I can do that. But I know that just must be this constant, busting your ass type of thing to stay consistent and keep it out there.
So he actually segued really well into what you just said. All the screens here say fear versus failure. But I do hear it a lot. You hear that, oh, it must be nice, because you see the YouTube channel, and you see my social media, my Instagram and everything, and it looks like I live this, dream life. And the thing is, yes, I do. I absolutely live my dream life. But I work my ass off to get to that point. But the thing is, I'm 28 years old. I'm still young enough, like a lot of you students out there who are probably way younger than me. But you're young enough to take the biggest risks of your life. To be to where I am, to have the YouTube channel that I did, I quit an extremely well-paying job, and I went from making a lot of money to making nothing, like literally maybe a couple $100 a month. I had saved up enough money to live about 6 months that way, and then if it didn't work out, I had to go back. But I took the risk. I left all of it to pursue something I really, really wanted. And you're young enough that you can rebound from failure. I fail almost every single day in some way, shape, or form. And I think it's a crucial part of learning and growing and finding what that passion is that you really want to do. But you're never going to get to that point without taking risks. If you're sitting on the couch every day, opportunities aren't just going to show up at your door. You have to go find them.
I mean, unless you're playing the lotto, then you're probably going to be okay
Yes.
financially. So we talked a little, a bit about risk, and it is important. If you don't take those risks, you're never going to know what's possible. And I think you bring up a good point too. It's just the economics of risk. As you mature in your life and you start to acquire things and debt and houses and cars and kids and cats and dogs and bills. Sorry, I'm using this as therapy right now. It becomes harder to take those risks because you get bound to things. So Brittany brought up a good point. You are at a stage in your life where you're not as bound by those things, and maybe you can take that chance now. It's a good time in your life to do it.
It's true.
So came a couple different things here. Occurred to me. One, I know we've kind of moved on to this fear and failure, but I did want to kind of backtrack just for a second and talk a little bit about that passion. As a CEO of a big company with how many employees do you have?
60.
Right. What are some of those kind of intangible things that you see in people or have seen in people being a serial entrepreneur? Well, that person's got what it takes. I'm going to invest in that person and grow them in our company.
So I wanted to step back and just make one other point.
Please.
We seem to all be entrepreneurs. And when I was really young, I thought everybody would want that. But there's a lot of people for whom that's not the gig. And it's extraordinary to be part of a team and be an important part of a team. And frankly, you still have the same questions about taking risks within a corporation. And I think the one message I would want to say is, when you think about taking a risk, also think about what the risk is if you don't do it. Because you need to be building on these experiences. And part of what you want to do when you're young, some of us continue to do this, but what you want to do when you're young is fail, and fail a lot on someone else's dime. You want to be in a job where you are learning as much as you can and furthering your knowledge in that area. So for me, hiring, I'm looking for somebody who has a passion for learning, who is a team player, Because even though I'm an entrepreneur, I am very much a team player. I always think about the Romans coming out there with their defense mechanisms together, and that's how I want to think about our team, that we have each other's back, first and foremost. So that person that comes in that has a lot of energy, has everybody's back, and is passionate to learn, I have a lot of time for that person.
What kind of employee do you not like?
I don't like gossipy backstabbing.
There's a lot of that in this industry, I
There
think.
is.
I think there's
Right.
a lot of, there can be a lot of
There's a lot of
that
that just in general.
everywhere, but I also think that it can be managed. I think you have to ask yourself, why is that happening, and why is that person not interested, in how do you redirect them? And it could be anything from their personal life to their life at work, and
That's
you
true.
have to think about it holistically.
So listen, it's an important point. Max asked him, and I'm sure everybody heard it, and I'll repeat it. What kind of individuals raise red flags, more or less, right? And Kim's answer, I think, is important. It was gossipy backstabbers. Was that right? And so listen, it's a big industry, automotive, but it's a small world. And what I shared a little bit yesterday was that it's kind of more about family. So the way you carry yourself, the conversations that you have, is going to come around full circle. And that's either going to help you or hurt you. And you don't want to be the kind of person that is constantly backstabbing or talking negatively about people. It's about being optimistic and being positive. You nailed that one, right? So I do want to ask real quick, are you scared of failing? You got to speak in the microphone.
There's nothing to the trial of faith.
All right. Mr. Optimistic, how about you? Share the mic.
Well, fear is what drives people to do anything. And if you live in basically no fear, then you're not going out of your comfort zone, you're not changing, you're not progressing as a person.
All right, right on. Nice.
Good advice, eh?
So this fear versus failure, it's okay. It's okay to be fearful, and it's okay to fail. The only thing is you don't want to be too feared to fail. Right? Were there any more conversations on this one that they were starting to go? I do want to bring this up. I introduced Michael as Mr. Redemption. So when we talk about failures, we all have different circumstances in our life and how we kind of adapt and recover and grow from those circumstances. Michael, so if you don't mind, just give a little bit about your background, how you've kind of moved forward.
Sure. So I failed miserably at life. I was in drugs and alcohol from the age of 10 until 21, and the U.S. government decided to take me out of society and put me in federal prison for 5.5 years to get my head straight. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. So I completely, right when I got in trouble, I didn't know a single person that didn't do alcohol or drugs in my life, right? And that was a huge problem because I was exactly the person around everybody I was hanging out with. Completely unproductive, stealing from people, selling drugs to people that have family with kids. You know, 1 minute they'll have a nice house, cars, and all that, and then by the time I'm done, they're living in 24-hour motels. Kids have no foods, no diapers. So that was a very destructive portion of my past life. That when I was arrested and I had that 5.5 years of time set aside for me, I remember taking a deep breath and telling myself, I am so unhappy. I feel so guilty for bringing people down instead of up like I was taught to in my upbringing, that now is my chance to change. And I used every minute of that time to better myself, to help others, teach a GED program, get out, and then am now able to speak with other groups about my life experience, how I was able to walk through all those challenging times, and now how I'm able to contribute to society in a really productive way. And always on my mind is how I can bring people up, teach them something that's helpful to them. It's one of the reasons why we work with youth as much as possible. Bring them into my shop, or take a complete fab shop across the state to Iowa, and just work with people in a positive way to show them that there's something else in life. I was the type, I had to stay busy, and I'm still like that. I don't do well sitting around, and I know there's others like that. I'm not unique, so if I can capture their interest through working with their hands, that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, excellent. I appreciate you sharing.
So in some ways, it's really a story of
perseverance,
Yeah.
and kind of righting the ship and understanding, hey, who do I want to be and what do I want my priorities and values to be, right?
Yep. You know, the bottom line is that I wasn't ready for help until that time. You know, until I wanted to do something different for myself and help myself and be a better person in life, nobody was going to change me. So,
Yeah.
you can be anything you want to be. You can do anything that you put your mind to. And I'm just one person that's proof positive of that.
Right on.
So, any more thoughts before we go on to the next topic on that perseverance or particular times where you've had setbacks and how you've overcome those? We're good? All right. So, we talked a little bit about this, but this idea of earned, or let's see what's going here. There. So this is that conversation where we're not talking to, we're talking with, but I think there's a certain stereotype out there, whether it's Gen Zs or millennials, and I just kind of throw up my mouth saying those words. But take age out of it, we all have to start somewhere and work our way up. And so there's this dichotomy between earning your pathway and then feeling entitled to it. And I don't mean entitled like in a bad thing, but hey, if you come out of school with a degree, is there an expectation that you start at a certain level? We know our industry is very entrepreneurial, and that requires kind of doing everything at any time of the day to make things work. So it's really about work ethic and working your way up. So Kim, if I were to ask you on this matter, earning something, right? What does that mean to you at a very kind of visceral level?
It means achieving something consistent with your values. And the question is, when you get something done, when you take credit for something, do you know that you earned it? I think you know with your own values whether you've earned it or not. And I think that if you have any question, if you ask your peers know whether you've earned it or not, or whether you've maybe taken credit for something you didn't do, or whether you expect something but you really haven't contributed to the team or the project or the opportunity in the way that others have. And I think that can out you pretty fast.
Yeah. Right on. Brittany.
Yes. So I honestly don't believe that anyone is entitled to anything. I think that everyone has to start from somewhere, and you have to work your way to where you want to be in life, in your job, in your relationship, in just about every aspect of your life. If you want it, it is completely, totally up to you to earn it. And I get that a lot with the YouTube channels. Again, it must be nice, but a lot of people don't see the background. I was up until 3 a.m. last night editing and uploading a video after a full day here at SEMA helping people prep and getting stuff done. But it's something that I want to do, and I'm willing to put the work and the hours in to achieve that.
So, Max, I think we first met a couple of years ago when you were the artist for the SEMA show, the featured artist for the SEMA show, and just the amount of work that goes into creating all of that. But I also, have seen you throughout your career, and what I say in some sense, you're always kind of hustling. You're always working. So I know at that core that the idea of hustling and constantly working. What drives you in that respect?
Well, since I was the age of these kids in here, I had an unquenchable passion for old cars and a passion for art. I constantly think about art and cars every hour of the day, all the time. If I can't solve a problem, I think about it at night. What drives me? I just love it. I love old cars. From my very first car at 15 years old, a 1952 Chevrolet pickup. Just the curves and the design of the old cars really speak to me. And that was always a major driving passion. But there's also something of the legacy of your family, I think, that plays a part of that. My dad drove a chopped Mercury when he was a a young man in his mid-20s. He had a chopped Mercury. He also raced a 65 Corvette. He was a little bit older. And there's something about the continuance of the family through the cars that to me is interesting. I was always raised around muscle cars when I was young. My brothers always had Camaros, Mustangs, Malibus, Chevelles, and they were always working on them. And then one day it was like the sky parted and the clouds came, and I realized I liked 50s cars. I liked the curves, I liked the shape, I liked that they were just interesting to look at. They were sculpturesque. And that became something that, it was an addiction to be on a road trip and see an old car parked in a field, and oh, what is that? And learning the subtle differences of one car to the next. And I still am learning all the time. I learned today about the difference between a 33 and a 34 Ford grill. I thought they were the same in the car, and I've learned the subtle, small differences. And it's just really interesting. And Mopar is this whole other ball of wax that's got all these little strange things about it. And every car I build, every time we build a car, I just enjoy the experience of learning the spirit of that car. This is a little new agey and hippie sounding, but for me, every time you build a car, there at some point in that build, the car takes on a spirit. And every car is different. Some cars, it's when you put the windshield and the glass in it. Some cars, it's when the paint goes down onto it. Some cars, it's when you lay it down and you see the suspension ride. But at some point, something clicks in that build of that car, and it seems to take on a spirit. It becomes the thing that it is. And it's because of you. And I live for that stuff.
So,
Nice, the spirit of the car.
for some reason, all I can think about is Stephen King, Christine.
I know.
That's a bad, So, Brittany, you touched on it earlier. You're in a different industry, good paying job, Texas A&M graduate, right? And now, what was it about, off-roading or the automotive lifestyle that drew you in and said, hey, this is what I want to do?
So, for those of you that don't know, so I graduated from Texas A&M University. I have a bachelor's of science.
Let's calm down, all right?
I have a bachelor's of science, and after I graduated from college, I actually did pursue a career with animals. I was actually a head reptile keeper at a wildlife ranch at a point in time. I actually did.
I'll get out of that too.
I did educational demonstrations with a monocle cobra, which is super rad. The only downside was I eventually found out that I couldn't afford to pay my bills doing what I was doing. And my other really big passion at the time, I had an old school Mark IV Volkswagen Jetta that was a fully built show car. And I figured if I couldn't make money working with animals, which was one of my passions, I'd shoot for cars. And I took a huge risk. I started working at a dealership. I did sales and I did service advising. And it catapulted me into this. I love this. I loved working with cars. I loved helping people work on cars. I loved learning the ins and outs of my own vehicle, being able to perform my own work. And eventually I got into race cars and drifting, and that was exhilarating. Everything just kind of domino affected into something else to put me where I am today. And it's because I grasped at opportunities that appeared.
So I just had this idea knowing that you are like a reptile person and like animals, and then you also are in the Jeep all the time. You should just merge the two passions. Go on safari and go find weird animals in exotic places on your trails. So you can take that and run with it. I don't need any rights to that. So we're about that time, and I want to make sure I open it up to the audience here. So hopefully you've been thinking about some questions, and we'll have some mic runners in the back of the room so that they can see you. If you have a question, please stand up, and they will safely make their way to you in a rapid pace to ask the question. So get ready. If you have a question, please stand up, and we will try to get to you. And as you're doing that, I have one more question for the panel here. And it's this idea of mentorship and why it's important. So Kim, if you wanted to start on, hey, how do you kind of even go about a mentor, or why finding
that important?
So it's very simple. You ask somebody. But honestly, finding a mentor is really, really hard because it's hard to find the right one for you. They need to be more experienced and they need to be more knowledgeable. And so you need to target somebody. You need to think about where are you now and where do you want to be and who is somebody that you think has the credentials. And I don't mean it in terms of title or anything, but just the knowledge to help you get where you want. And maybe somebody who you have a sense is willing to help. They need to have the right personality for you. But I think if you ask the question, you'll find most people are kind of honored that you would ask them. And they will want to help you and they will take pride. So I think your step is to ask. Find the person that you want and ask that person. But there's empirical research that shows that having a mentor is one of the most powerful things you could do to accelerate your career and your earnings. And if you can take that up a notch from a mentor to a sponsor, who is somebody who's actually trying to help you with your career, the mentor is a little more of a coach, then the odds are even higher that will accelerate your career.
Max, anything to add to that?
She said it all.
Right?
Yeah, great.
Right? Brittany? We just really passed it,
Yeah.
man. Like you gave me a window, I'm moving on.
You're really watching the clock, aren't you?
She honestly explained it perfectly. The one thing that I see a lot in the car scene, whether it's show cars, racing, drag racing, drifting, road course, all of those, the one thing that I think is so important is to never be afraid to ask for help. Everyone started somewhere. At some point, the best race car driver in the entire world didn't know how to change oil. He didn't know how to change a tire. There is no shame in asking for help or asking to be shown how to do something so that you can learn. And I think a lot of times it's very easy for people to feel too prideful to ask. They don't want to look like they don't know what they're doing. And I think that's kind of silly. Anyone who is passionate about the same thing that you are would have no hesitation in helping you.
Max?
You're all in an industry with a bunch of old guys that won't shut up. So finding a mentor isn't really going to be a problem for you. What's going to be your problem is being able to put your ego down and be able to learn and listen. Because everybody knows everything, and young guys, and sometimes young girls, they already know all the answers. So the biggest thing that's going to hold you back, I think, with that is that you just gotta put your ego aside. You never get to the point where you don't need a good mentor and good advice. You learn every day. Just shut up and listen to what people are going to teach you. That's the best thing you can do is take it all in. This old guy that knows all this stuff, he's lived it already. Why are you not asking him every question you could possibly think of when you have that opportunity? If they're a tire guy, pick their brain about everything that they know about tires. If they're a suspension guy or girl, find out what they know about suspension. The opportunity's right there. For me, it was an education. I got a bachelor's degree, and I got a master's degree. I just had an unquenchable sense of I wanted to learn as much as I could. And if you go that route, I'm not saying that's necessarily for everybody, but that's full of mentors. People have great experience, and it's a great opportunity to learn. But they're everywhere. Those people to learn from are everywhere. But are you going to be open to receive it, or are you going to think you already know the answer?
Yeah, we talk about mentorship and it becomes this like formalized thing, but I think it's just asking for help and surrounding yourself around people that can get you somewhere. So you had a comment, Mike?
I did. I'm here from Chicago, from Kennedy King, and since you guys were, especially you're my hero, I'm sorry. Since we're asking for help, this is going to go along with that. Would you guys mind taking a picture for us with our college? We're trying our best to be out here to gain sponsors and get further with our club.
Do a picture.
And so I just wanted to,
Yeah.
all of you, you're awesome, and this is going to be excellent.
We will do some pictures, yes.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you. Especially.
All right, so are there people standing in the audience? Are we ready for any questions? So we have a question somebody over here.
One there.
It'll take a second to get the microphones to you. While they're, did you have anything that you wanted to add on?
Oh yeah, mentorship is
Yeah.
like one of the biggest topics I think I enjoy the most, and I'll try to keep it short. One of my mentors is here. He's on the floor booking somebody's booth while I'm out. Rod has been a huge influence and mentor in my
I
life.
heard a shout out for Vaughn. Nice.
Yeah, I feel so privileged that over a period of time I was able to build a relationship with him where he felt comfortable enough to share some of his industry secrets with me, and I don't take that for granted. You know, being a good mentee means being a great listener, and even if they're telling you something that you already know, you act like you don't. You be humble and you listen to that, because the thing he's going to tell you right after that is going to knock your socks off and is going to propel you to the next level in something. For me, finding mentors has not been a problem at all, because I come up, I'm interested, I'm going to show that person that I'm going to apply the things that they're sharing with me in whatever I'm trying to achieve, and then I'm going to be more successful. I have mentors across the board. I have business mentors that are other successful businessmen that have nothing to do with my business or the automotive industry. I have relationship mentors of people that, the bottom line is, if I find somebody that has something that I want in life and that I want to work towards and find and fight and get, that's the person I'm going to try to build a relationship to get into my life so that I can emulate and be successful from the position that I see they are. And so I can't say enough about having as many mentors in your life for as many different things that you want to become successful in. Chase that, build those relationships, and don't just build them. The biggest part of being a good mentee is managing the relationship. Answer your phone. Always make yourself available, because that's exactly what you're asking them to do for you.
All right. So, excellent. We're going to start over here with Byron with a question, and then we're going to move over to AJ. And when AJ is asking a question, if there's somebody on this side of the room, stand up, and Byron will get you, and then we'll ping pong. So that's how it works. Byron, you have a question over there?
Hi, my name is Sterling Mashiro, and one of the bullet points you went over was the passion for the industry, and I wanted a little more help understanding the challenges that we as upcoming technicians need to understand to overcome.
So the question, I guess, is on as a up-and-coming technician, and I think it's, you know, technicians have a certain amount of challenges, but beyond that, I think there is something universal in challenges of getting into a career. Any particular feedback on that one?
I can go ahead, Mitch.
I think he's going to encounter, problems just due to lack of experience. I think one thing you're going to find in this industry is there's 20 ways to skin a cat, and if you can't train your brain to think of things in a different way, more creatively, you're going to be not very good at your job. So when you have a book and you're a tech at a dealership, and you follow the way that the book tells you to fix the problem, and that doesn't work out, you need the experience to think of it, to figure out how to solve the problem creatively and maybe a different way. So I think the biggest thing you're going to encounter is lack of experience. You just have to keep working and keep working on projects all the time. Be open to others' opinion, and you might not always follow other people's opinion, but you can listen to it.
Oh.
Like over time.
No, you got the blah blah buzzer. They're calling you out on something.
Okay.
Well, let's see. So I think it was. It was.
What was the question on blah blah?
So part of it is, right? So, well, what's your comment?
The comment is the reason that we as younger people in this industry are having issues because they think we don't know. We learn the new technology, we use the newer equipment, they're used to doing things a certain way. Yes, there's a million ways to do things. Common sense kind of kicks in with all of it. However, there's a new technological way to do it. That's why it's not called automotive anymore, it's called automotive technology. Mm-hmm. We are the newer part, and our newfangled tools upset some people, which is why they tell us and push us back.
So I don't know if that's contrary to what was being, but I will say this. As we go to advanced vehicle technologies and onboard diagnostics, there is a separation of really understanding the vehicle versus just reading a diagnostic. And I think for tech to really evolve and be successful in the industry, yes, you have to understand that technology component of it, but you can't lose sight of the fundamentals and really understand what makes a car work on a very basic level. So tech cannot become a crutch that gets you away from really understanding how a vehicle operates. AJ.
Yeah.
How's it? My name is Coletta Rosa. We're from Hawaii, and we go to Castle High School. And my question was, if you have bills to pay, what is more important, passion or money?
So I had a hard time hearing the question. Maybe AJ, you can repeat it?
Yeah, it sounds like he says they have bills to pay. So what comes first, the bills or the passion?
Passion.
Are you
Brittany, you seem very eager to answer this one. So, Brittany?
So this is it. Again, at your age, typically, I say this, I don't know how old all of you are, but the younger you are, the less, in my opinion, that money should matter to you. In the sense of figuring out what it is you want to do in life, where you want to be, what passion you want to pursue. I figured that out slightly later, but I gave up a lot of money to make significantly less, but I am infinitely happier with what I do now than where I was before. And I was always coached when I worked at a dealership that I should be working my butt off day in and day out when I'm young so that I have all of this money that I can retire on and enjoy when I'm older. And I'm not saying that you don't want to consider, investing in 401k so that you're set up as an adult, but I honestly think that when you're young, that's the time in your life that you should be doing what you love and what you enjoy as much as possible. And then from there, hopefully you'll find something that you can make the money in where you can pay the bills. It's just...
I think if you focus on the passion, the money comes.
Yes.
Inevitable.
I think everybody's situation is going to be different.
Yeah.
And listen, when we have to handle business, we have to handle business. Whether it may be family obligations, we need money to do things. And if you're in a situation where you feel trapped, it's, hey, how do you make a plan to transition out of your current predicament? It may not be that you can do it today and just say, hey, I'm passionate about this, so I'm going to start that. It's going to have to evolve into that. But just because you are trapped or in a certain situation now, how are you going to get out of it?
Yeah. I have an answer to that. I
Yeah.
mean, for me, it's always been having inventory. I've had more than once where I paid my employees and I've been broke, but I paid my employees. And one thing I've found is there's always a way to hustle and do a flash sale, something like that, if you have a built-up inventory. Now, I don't know what you're going to translate that to, but for me, that equates to stickers and t-shirts and paintings and things like that. Because if you have a buildup of things that you can sell, you can always make money in a pinch.
Yeah. So, Byron, we have time for a couple more questions. I know you, right? So maybe 2 more questions.
So thank you for coming to SEMA Education in the first place, taking the time away from your shops and your family and everything to come and talk to all of us young people. My question is specifically in your shops, what are you doing to bring younger people into your business when you go back home?
You got to talk me into it, man. I mean, to be honest, we're not, most businesses I think don't want a younger, experienced person. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's the truth of it. You've got to stand above your peers. You know, a lot of times you see 2 different people who are in the same position in a job, and one person falls a little bit short and they miss a day at work. There's 2 types of people that react to that. One person says, I want that. I want to get the day off. The other person says, now's my chance to get ahead. Now that is my time to shine because that person's out. You want to be that person. You want to be the person who's trying to stand out and shine when they have the opportunity. I mean, you got to talk these people into it. Most people aren't looking for somebody young and inexperienced to pop into a job. Here, let me put these people's lives at risk for somebody who doesn't have that much experience. I'm sorry, but that's the truth of the matter. Yeah. Kim?
So we actually are looking for young people. We are looking for skilled young people, particularly in the machine shop. we have, it's, at least in California, we're having a terrible time filling the jobs that we have. And I see it as a build opportunity where you bring somebody in and you ask yourself every year, at least it's what I ask myself with the folks that work for us, is this person more saleable, more useful, a better person, worth more in the marketplace than they were a year ago? If they are, then we've done a good job. If they're not, then we've got to ask ourselves what we're doing wrong.
What's your average employee age that you bring in as far as new employees?
We get kids, some kids out of high school, and we put them on the wash line. We had a wonderful story of a kid who came in, and I don't know how far away he was, but he came on a skateboard every day. He didn't have a car. And eventually, by the time he left, he had a car and was driving to work. And
Somebody
he was
who's
on our
willing
top
to
sheet.
pull in and skateboard to work, that tells me that they have
Absolutely.
that momentum that they are ready to go. Showing up on a skateboard when you don't have a car yet, I would say that guy is...
He's the man.
He's the man. You showed up, you came all the way to work on a skateboard, and now you're here to work. To me, that says gold star. Boom.
So we're going to do one more question real quick, and then speaking of working and hustling, Brittany has to get back to another booth for an appearance here shortly in Upper South, so we know how that is going to get navigated to during the show. But she will be at Brew Talks this afternoon from 4 to 5 o'clock in room N258. If you want to see her more and ask more questions of Brittany. Last question, and we'll try to make the answer concise here.
Awesome, I'll try to make it quick. My name is Benjamin Rogers. I'm with Brigham Young University, Idaho. I'm originally from South Carolina, so it was kind of nice to be here from catching crawdads to talking to you guys here. But I appreciate the opportunity. What was it that you told yourself in the morning, every day, to get you where you are today?
Brittany, if you want to start, and then you can be your walk-off answer.
Honestly, for me, every single morning that I wake up, my number one goal is to be happy. And I know that seems like a really broad, thing to want in life, but to me, you get one life. What's the point of spending it if you aren't just enjoying every single second? And so when I wake up in the morning, my goal is to do what I want to do that makes me smile. What is it that makes me happy? Sometimes it involves facing fears. Sometimes it involves taking huge risks. A lot of the times it involves failure, but you learn from your failure. You become a better person, a more successful person, and you keep moving forward in life. And for me, it's honestly just living the life that I want to live and not being afraid to do what it takes to get to that point.
All right. Let's hear it for Brittany Williams. Thank you so much. All right. Again, what booth are you going to?
I will be at the Desktop booth.
Desktop booth, and then Brew Talks today from 4 to 5, room in 258. So other questions to the answer, or questions to answers to the question? I forget what the question was already.
What do you tell yourself when you woke up in the morning?
I hear them
I'm
back.
a BYU alumni too, so props to that. But I always just kind of thought that time moves along anyway. Time's going to happen, things are going to move on. You may as well be accomplishing something as time moves on, because you're going to wake up in 5 years most likely anyway. So you may as well wake up in 5 years having accomplished the things that you want and made yourself grow.
So I have, a lot of people might think it's silly and I may never make this goal, but I have huge dreams, right? So every day when I wake up in the morning, waking up in the morning is one of the hardest things I have to do because I'm not a natural morning person. But someday I want a $3 million fishing yacht, and if I don't get out of bed, and I don't chase, and I don't hustle, and I don't make as much money as possible, I'm never going to reach that goal, For me, getting up every day is accountability too, because it's not just me anymore. I have 2 employees. I have a tax man that likes a lot of money. I have a lot of people that I have to be held accountable to financially. that gets me up and inspired every day to take care of the obligations to my vendors, my employees, my family, and that's what gets me through the day.
My goal is to have a friend with $3 million fishing yacht, so keep working. I will be there with you. So we'll end it with Kim. Any closing comments?
Yeah, the first thing when I wake up in the morning is, can I sleep another 5 minutes? That's the honest about truth. But what I think about most of the time and in the morning too when I wake up is the people who work at Magnuson and whether I'm doing what I need for those people.
Right on. All right, let's hear it for our panel today. Kim Pendergast, Max Grundy, Michael Grant, and how about our two cohorts here today?
Thank you for not dropping me.
All right. Well, that concludes this. See you out on the show floor. Have a great week, everybody. Thank you so much.